On the 23rd of March 2026, the world was shaken by a terrible accident.
Stop, truck one, stop.
And while talking about this tragedy is very difficult, and it's very hard for me to even make this video, I want to have a look at what transpired, what happened and why, and then see how the failures of that system, the conditions that gave rise to that accident, can help us learn valuable lessons in our IT GRC and information security areas so that the field becomes better and we as professionals also become better. On the 23rd March 2026, in the late evening hours of that day, a jet crashed on the LaGuardia airport in the US. The airplane itself was coming from Montreal, with its destination being the LaGuardia airport. Upon landing, the plane crashed on a fire truck that was occupying, or that was at that moment on runway 4, which was the runway that the airplane was also landing on. And that incident, that crash, caused the death of the 2 pilots of the airplane and the injury of a lot of the passengers of that aircraft. Thankfully, there was no other casualties as a result of that crash. Something also important to point out is the fact that the fire truck itself was occupying the runway, or was on the runway at the time, because it was actually responding to another incident that took place with another aircraft. So it's not like the fire truck was there for no reason, but it had to be in the vicinity in order to investigate and to resolve another issue, smoke issue that occurred with another aircraft. This is also important to keep in mind, just to not think that the fire truck was there for no particular reason. Yes, it had a reason, it had to be there. It was actually performing its duties on site. During those events, or right before those events, the air traffic control, which was occupied at the time by 2 people who had to manage the ground and the air traffic, were the ones who tried to avert the incident. The person who was responsible to communicate with the aircraft and the fire truck tried to stop, to halt the fire truck. They gave instructions to that fire truck. The fire truck, for some reason, they didn't understand, or they didn't get the information on time. They crossed the runway 4, and then the plane crashed, coming with a speed of about 200 kilometers or 100 miles. And then that caused the death of the 2 pilots and the injury of the people on board. Of course, needless to say, our condolences go to the families of the pilots who lost their lives. And of course, now the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, in the US is trying to piece the puzzle pieces together and figure out, okay, what happened, what was the root cause of the incident, and what could be done to avoid this disaster. So what does this event tell us? Or what can we learn from this unfortunate event? First and foremost is that proper communication and coordination is very important. If you have a look at the details of the incident, you will see that there were attempts for communication from the air traffic control people that were working at the time. However, something broke along this communication effort, and this potentially led to the incident that took place and the loss of lives, physical and emotional damage that occurred. Having clear communication between different parties responsible for activities, for tasks, is paramount. And this is something that is also applicable in IT GRC. It's also applicable in information security. It's also applicable in cybersecurity. We need to have roles defined. We need to know who's doing what. We need to be able to communicate effectively and efficiently and be able to quickly share messages. Also, if you want to know more about IT GRC, what it is, what it means, how to navigate the IT GRC area, I made a video that you can find above and also in the description of the video that will give you a better idea of what IT GRC is and what we actually do here, basically. So have a look at that as well. The other thing is documentation. Documentation is very important for the aviation industry. If you go and have a look at the aviation industry practices, or if you know about them, you will know that everything depends on good documentation. From the configuration of the aircraft, from the technical inspections, the documentation of checklists before, during, and after a flight has been concluded. It is all about documentation. In our fields as well, documentation plays a pivotal role in ensuring that we know who is doing what and what needs to be done under certain circumstances. This is why documentation has to be kept up to date. We have to maintain it, we have to review it periodically, somebody has to approve it. Our organizations need to be on top of our documentation. This is absolutely critical, and you see how relevant it is both for the aviation and for the IT GRC, cybersecurity, information security industry. And then if we look a bit further, we will see the importance of controls in the way we protect what we care about the most. In the case of the accident that took place in New York, in LaGuardia Airport, what seems to be the case, or at least one of the problems, one of the controls that didn't work as it should, that was not even there, was the fact that the fire truck that was on the runway at that time was not equipped with a transponder, meaning it couldn't transmit an alert that it was occupying that runway at the time. And the air traffic control was not able to monitor, to track it effectively, so they had a blind spot. In short, air traffic control was partially at least blind, and they could not react on time. So you can see the lack of the control affected the outcome, or resulted in the outcome, to be more precise. The same can be said about controls that we need to apply in order to mitigate certain risks in our fields, whether that is IT GRC, cybersecurity, as I mentioned before, information security, and so on. In the IT GRC field, we apply controls to mitigate risks. Essentially, this is the primary goal of controls, to mitigate at some level, to manage risks to some extent. We have good controls in place, meaning the risks that we run are lower. The events that will occur will not have such a big impact as they would if the controls were not there. In the information security area, in the cybersecurity area, this is very obvious. We have all of the controls, all of the traditional and even the most modern controls that you can think of: encryption, access controls, firewalls, multi-factor authentication, physical security. All of those controls need to be there to some extent to protect against something. This is exactly why we need the controls, to protect our most valuable assets against a threat that will compromise that vulnerability. I was watching a clip from the next day investigations and the next day efforts to salvage the black box and to go through the wreckage of the airplane. And I saw this truck that you can see on your screen right now, and I thought about Swiss cheese. And this is not about the actual cheese, but it is about the metaphorical Swiss cheese concept that basically says that events like that, disasters like that, take place because there were a lot of contributing factors that altogether created that hole on the Swiss cheese, and then the stars aligned, and then this happened. If any of those conditions that gave rise to this incident wouldn't have happened, then potentially the whole incident wouldn't have happened either. And this is also something that reminds me of the concept of defense in depth, right? We have controls in place that compensate for other controls, and they fit together like pieces of a puzzle that together they have a cascading effect, and they can at least protect. If one of the controls fails, then the next one is there to pick things up and to ensure that the incident does not manifest, does not materialize. So this is why controls are crucial, and again, they have to be maintained, they have to be in place, they have to be reviewed, they have to be evaluated on a regular basis. Are they still relevant, or are they just a waste of money and time? And again, you can see how the aviation industry system, the bigger system, and the IT GRC, InfoSec, cybersecurity systems are similar in that regard as well. And now let's talk about the most important part, as well as the most critical part of any chain in those systems, and this is people. As I mentioned before, there were two people in the air traffic control that were trying to manage the situation They managed the situation as best as they could, and they played a role in this incident. Now, we don't know what role they played exactly. They definitely did play some role, and I'm not here to blame anybody. I don't know what is the situation. The National Transportation Safety Board is responsible to figure out what happened, what transpired, and of course there's going to be a huge investigation that's going to last maybe a year, maybe more than that, to figure out exactly what the root cause is, as I said before. But people are vital. And what is important is, number one, training and awareness of those people. So making sure that those people are well equipped, that they have the relevant skill set, they have the relevant knowledge to perform their tasks. And number two, that capacity management and workload is also important. In our industry, you will hear two things quite a lot. One is people is the weakest link of the chain. The second thing is that at the same time, people are our most valuable assets. So every control that we have in place is there to ultimately protect human lives. In IT GRC, we don't focus primarily on human lives. In information security, that could be the case, that it is a target, but of course we always care about that. We mostly care about the protection of data, personal data, sensitive data, financial data, infrastructure, systems, power grids, health systems, financial systems, so that our society essentially runs properly. But at the end of the day, once again, humans and people are the most important asset that we need to protect. Going back, looking back, and identifying the root causes of an incident are or were is what we call lessons learned. Going back, understanding what happened, trying to figure out what the root cause was, and then doing something to improve so that next time this doesn't happen. There is one audio clip where the air traffic control person is speaking and they say three words. It hurts, and it's of course something that he will have to carry for the rest of his life, but understanding that something broke in that system, in that process, in that procedure, something happened that shouldn't have happened, is the first step in fixing problems in those systems. Then the second step is to learn from those mistakes, and maybe the realization that hurts the most is that sometimes we choose the best out of two evils, or we do our best to mitigate an already negative situation. The pilots of the plane that unfortunately lost their lives in their effort to stop the plane on time, or to at least avoid a more serious situation, I want to believe consciously, or maybe unconsciously, or maybe as a result of their training, decided to press hard on the brakes, but not steer the plane left or right, because what that would cause is for the plane to flip over, and that would have detrimental consequences for everybody on board. The jet fuel that moves planes is actually stored on the wings of the planes. So any tumbling or any rolling of the aircraft would lead to a leak of that fuel, and then leak equals fire and a blast, and then a lot more people, if not everybody, would have lost their lives as a result. So then a lesson to be taken is also that sometimes we just need to make a hard choice and to choose how to mitigate a disaster as painlessly as possible. So the key takeaways from all this exploration of that unfortunate event, of that unfortunate incident, is that the way a company manages its IT GRC, its information security, its cybersecurity, is vital to its success and it's vital to its survival. Because of the interconnection of those pieces, as well as the ease by which an incident can take place. And this is exactly why we need to build structures, we need to build systems that work better, that work effectively, that work operationally well, that they function taking those principles into account and ensuring that we can keep on top of conditions that would otherwise harm an organization, that would harm our system, our IT GRC infrastructure and ecosystem as a whole. And of course, lastly, even if those systems start failing, at least what we can do is we can investigate, we can go back, we can look at the reasons why they failed, and then iteratively start improving those systems to make them stronger, to make them better, to make them work as they should work. So every time those incidents happen, keep that in mind, that we need to be better in the IT GRC area. We need to be better professionals. We need to be able to keep our systems working, keep up with threats, keep up with vulnerabilities, keep up with controls, how we apply them, how relevant those controls are, and how important our systems are in order to ensure that we protect what is most valuable for us. If you want to start applying IT GRC in a structured and in an easy way, I created something just for you. I created an IT GRC preparedness checklist that you can download for free. You can find the link in the description down below and in the first pinned comment. That checklist you can use at any time to check the basics, make sure that your IT GRC preparedness is there. You can also use that checklist to improve the maturity of your IT GRC capability. So that's quite useful as well. As I said, link in the description, and of course it's free to use and download. Now, if you found this video useful, helpful, insightful, you can have a look at those videos that will pop up on the left side of your screen. As always, stay safe and secure both in the physical and the digital world. Until next time, take care.